have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. This is episode number 67, and I am the host, Mandy Mucci. Today, we are chatting with Devyn Sisson, who is an author and soon-to-be restaurateur. And if you remember back to episode 9er, yes, you heard a 9er in there, with Elle Russ, the author of Paleo Thyroid Solution, it was actually Elle who introduced me to Devyn, and we chatted today about the book she wrote, which is called Kitchen Intuition, which is a self-reflection in addition to a cookbook. Can't wait to check it out. And we also chatted about the restaurant she and her brother are opening in Culver City, and we talked about a lot of vulnerability and how bold it can be to really bare yourself, both to yourself and to the world, which is what Devyn did. All right, please enjoy the episode of Bold Moves podcast number 67 here with Devyn Sisson. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. I have another great bold mover with us today. Her name is Devyn Sisson. Welcome to the show, Devyn.
Hey, welcome. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to chat with me today. Now, of course, you know that the podcast is called Bold Moves. What bold moves have you made? Why do you think that I have you on my show?
It's so funny that you ask that, because if you were to speak to my friends, I often say most things that I do, silly or not, are a bold move.
That's awesome.
But why I'm here with you, obviously, is because writing a book's kind of a bold move, right?
Definitely.
Writing a cookbook is a bold move, but I'm not sure I understood just how bold of a move it would be once I started writing about what I actually wrote about. So writing this freaking book is my bold move.
All right, so tell me a little bit more about this book.
So I decided during my second year in a master's program that I would write a cookbook, sort of as my thesis project, culmination of everything I had learned, a little bit of self-reflection involved, and something that was just really my heart song. And I've always loved food, loved people, so I decided to write a cookbook. I have no background in cooking. I have no formal culinary experience, but I like food and I like cooking and I like people, so I decided to write a cookbook. And it's called Kitchen Intuition. And it's really about learning to cultivate your intuition in the kitchen, learning to use your body, your hands, your senses, and kind of having a different relationship with food.
That sounds really interesting, and I'm glad that you went into the title and a little bit of background on the book, because you said that, you did some self-reflection, and I feel like most people, when they think about a cookbook, there's not a whole lot of self-reflection, or you might not even think about, in some cases, who the author is or why the book exists. It's just like, oh, these are all great recipes for the grill, or these are all great desserts. So could you tell me a little bit more about what using intuition in the kitchen looks like, and how your sort of soul searching played into making the book?
Yeah, of course. So initially it started off as, I just want young people, it started off as young people, now it's everybody, but I just want young people to feel comfortable in the kitchen. I want to show people that healthy food tastes good, and that being tired or financially insecure is not really an excuse to not nourish your body. So it started off as a way to get my friends and family eating kale salad for lunch and enjoying grilled chicken and trying chia pudding instead of, flan or whatever it is that they were having at restaurants. And I became really aware through my education and through my nutrition programs just how much food is involved in our daily life, our interactions with people, and how that affects our health long term. So it started off that way, but as I started to reflect on my own relationship with food through these various relationships, my family, my sibling, my romantic relationships, my friendships, I realized that I had a relationship with food that would be valuable to share with other people. The more I started talking about it with everybody, I realized that we kind of all have this interesting relationship with food, and some people are uncomfortable with it and some people don't think about it, but we're all on this spectrum, and learning how to communicate with that, enjoy it with people, and cook it ourselves was something that at least the people I spoke to were like, you got to tell everybody about this. Nobody knows
Sure.
this. I feel the same way.
I love it. And that makes me really excited to check out the book. Now, you mentioned that it is healthy recipes. And I think if you ask somebody what healthy eating is, or if you ask 10 people to define healthy eating, you would probably get 10 completely different answers. So, in your experience, in your book examples, I know you said kale salad, chia pudding, and grilled chicken, but what are the sort of guidelines that you follow for healthy eating in your recipes?
So this book is all about me. So I really just used the things that I eat and the things that I enjoy to sort of use that as my guide for healthy food. My dad chooses to eat a certain way. My mom chooses to eat a certain way. My brother chooses to eat a certain way. But I just, as many whole foods as I can get in my body, as many vegetables as possible, sweet things occasionally, and nothing processed. And kind of the rest is up to you. If you want dairy, or if you eat meat, if you eat nuts, if you like more fat or less fat, or if you want to make everything in my book a sandwich, go ahead.
That's an interesting idea. I like that. So would you say that, I mean, I know it's obviously about you, you said, is there any instruction on how to find your own kitchen intuition for somebody who may have different restrictions they place on themselves or guidelines that they follow for their diet?
So there's not a lot of instruction in the book in general, which
Okay.
my editor had a really hard time with. You need to tell people exactly what to do. And that's kind of not what it's about. It's about figuring it out.
Sure.
So as far as teaching people how to use their intuition, a lot of it is obviously through my own experience and how I learned and what I learned. But it's about, I guess the instruction would be to just get in touch with your food, use your body. And I have examples of burning fish because I was listening to music too loud in the kitchen and I couldn't hear the burn. Or just paying attention to how heavy the bottle of olive oil was as I dressed my salad, touching every spice. And, a pinch of curry powder feels very different than a pinch of parsley flakes. And just really getting in touch with my senses, the way things looked, the way things sounded, the way things smelled, how they felt in my hand. And then more importantly, how they felt in my body afterwards. And I think that's the instruction manual on learning how to use your intuition in the kitchen.
I love that. And I love too how you thought about how it impacts your relationships with people, because I don't think a lot of people think about that. And I find that, like, I learned the hard way that I moved out to California. All my family is in the Midwest. And either when people visit or when I go home to visit, sometimes I'll eat things at restaurants that I wouldn't normally eat. And it's just like, oh, I'm on vacation. This is like a splurge or whatever, whether it's, having a bunch of bread or pasta or, even having like a piece of cake or some sort of sweet treat. And then I find that I'm not able to enjoy the rest of the time with the people that I'm supposed to be spending time with because I can barely stay awake because I'm not used to eating that way. So
Of course.
I think that that's great. Did you do any like journaling to kind of figure it out, or did you just kind of watch yourself for a while and think about it?
I'm a huge fan of journaling, so I think I just kind of write everything down, and that's what was easy about this book was the writing part. And I think if you ask anyone who's written a book, creating a writing practice is really difficult, but that was the easy part for me. Writing down my feelings, reflecting on my day, my thoughts, things like that. That was the easy part. But my willingness to actually share that information once I was aware of it was the more difficult part for me. I started to notice in my writing, it would just kind of come through when I sat down, I'd read back through a paragraph and not really have understood it when I experienced it last night, but really got how uncomfortable I was eating dinner with my mom because I felt a certain way and she was eating something different, and being able to reflect on that was the turning point there.
So are you opening up to in this book and sharing kind of some uncomfortable things that are private? Because I think a lot of people don't realize until they feel them, and maybe not even acknowledge them when they do, that there are certainly a lot of emotions around food.
I mean, you talk about bold moves. I don't think until my parents read this book, they had any idea what my relationship with food was. So, you know, that was really vulnerable, really uncomfortable. And there was a 6-month period for various reasons that I just decided to stop writing because I realized it got too real. I wasn't ready to tell my partner that or my roommate that, let alone share that with the world. That was really scary. So, yeah, that was scary.
I believe it. So, first of all, how old are you?
I'm 26.
You're 26. Okay, you look much younger than 26. I'm sure you get that a lot.
Yeah, we'll keep it that way for the next 50 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's keep that rolling. And what were you getting your master's degree in? Have you finished?
I got my master's degree in spiritual psychology, and then I did a
Congratulations.
nutrition program to follow that for a year.
Okay, fantastic. So these kind of go along together with the book.
Yeah.
All right. So in all of this soul searching and the bold moves you've made and the extra schooling that you've done, would you say that you know what your purpose is, or are you still working on figuring it out?
My purpose in life, like in general?
Life. Yeah.
Wow, that's okay. You're going to go there?
We're going
there. Yeah, I have figured out what my purpose is. I know that's pretty bold thing to say.
Well, but yeah, there's a reason you're on the show, right. So
my purpose is to experience these things, these not upsets, but difficulties in my life, whether it was writing this book or figuring out my body or my relationships. My purpose in life is to learn from those, to be able to share them with people. And I haven't yet decided how exactly I'm going to help people, but the feedback I tend to get in my life is just by having conversations, making people think about certain things, having dinner with them, and just being like, oh my God, do you taste how this salmon is seared and it's layered with something else and it just feels so good in my body? Just being really vulnerable, being open, and being vocal about everything that's going on in my present moment. And that's my purpose right now.
I love it. And I love that you said right now too, because it is a big question, but you don't necessarily have to commit to one purpose and be like, all right, I've decided today, this is my life purpose. I am never going to think about it again. And I'm just going to charge full speed ahead toward doing that. So obviously, you can have many more life purposes that come up as you experience things or refine them as you go. So I think that was a great answer. And yes, we went there. So now I'm going to go there again, and you may have already brought this up, but I'm curious as to what the scariest thing you've ever done or experienced has been.
Whoa, you're going to go there too.
This is a serious questions on the podcast.
Just being as crunchy as it sounds, like being willing to look at this, being willing to use this part of myself to heal myself, but to help other people. And I didn't realize how prominent food issues were amongst people. I sort of understood young girls living in LA. But the more people I talk to as I travel the world, as I travel the country, as I walk around my neighborhood, people are struggling with food and with health, whether it's on a large scale or just inside someone's home. And the scariest thing I've ever done is just sort of opening that can of worms. Like, now I wrote this, I did not put everything in there. Not because I wanted to save it for book number 2, but because I just wasn't ready to. And now I'm realizing when people are asking me questions or writing articles or doing podcasts and blogs, people are really tuning into exactly what I was writing about, and I'm having to answer those questions, and it's scary. It's scary.
I believe it is. If you had to share the stuff you left out right now, what would you feel comfortable sharing so that people can kind of get a sense, A, of more toward what the book is about, and then B, what you've continued to dare to share?
I think in the book it comes across that I've healed myself and it's all good now. And as I continue to talk about it, I'm realizing just how prevalent what I'm dealing with is in my everyday. And I spent a couple years of my life, for the better part of 1 year, but for the most part, just afraid of food, afraid of being a vegan, afraid of being a vegetarian, afraid of being paleo, afraid of not eating, afraid of eating too much, afraid of eating too often, afraid of not eating often enough. It was too scary. There was too much information out there, and I just messed up my body. I was eating the cleanest, healthiest diet anyone could ever imagine. However, I had guilt for eating a kale salad because maybe I ate too much of it, or maybe there was too much olive oil on it, or maybe I felt like I was depriving myself of the fried chicken and waffles I really wanted on the menu. I just, like, every single thing I put in my body, although objectively healthy, clean, yummy, just felt like poison. And I'm realizing now that that was my way of thinking about it. That was my relationship to it. And I did not put a lot of that in the book because wasn't quite sure I wanted to share that with maybe it was just my parents. I tell strangers on the subway in New York, and I tell my cab driver here in LA, but I didn't want my parents to know just how afraid of food I was for so long.
And I think that that's probably something that a lot of people can identify with. Sometimes the people that are closest to us, it's more scary to share with them because if it's a stranger, you could walk away and never see them again and there's no repercussions. But if it's, your parents that either you live with or you see all the time, or, your significant other, your best friend, you have to deal with their potential judgment, their reaction. And I can see how that could be pretty difficult. And I don't know if everyone listening knows who your parents are, but that might also play a role with the food thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and explain why I might be bringing them up?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents are two of the coolest people ever. My mom is just the keeper of the house and the butterfly and teacher of all things loving and spiritual and wonderful. She keeps us all light and happy. And my dad has made a living sort of being a leader in the health movement. He has a paleo blog called Mark's Daily Apple, where he has sort of developed this primal blueprint, primal lifestyle way of eating, sleeping, standing instead of sitting. And his body and what he looks like and who he is and how he moves is a billboard. He always has to look a certain way and be a certain way and feel a certain way because that's what he's telling everybody else.
Right.
And I think what you're referring to is just that I might have been difficult or felt pressured to follow in those footsteps, whether it was to eat that way or to look a certain way throughout my life. And that was definitely the case. Subconsciously, probably. I certainly got no pressure from them. But like, daddy's big and strong and mom's tall and beautiful. I want to be like them.
Sure. And I suppose that growing up in Malibu probably gave its own pressures as well. You're saying you understand being a young girl in LA, and that's probably one of the toughest places to be a young girl, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It wasn't much easier in Manhattan either.
Yeah, two very image-focused areas, potentially. So when you're about to do these scary things and share these different, inside feelings and reflections, how do you push past the fear to do it?
Reminding myself what it was like and how okay I was after I did it the last time.
Oh, I like that. So when you're doing it, it's like a recurring battle, the same type of, and it's just like, okay, I didn't die last time. I actually helped someone, probably felt good after. I can do it again. I like that. That's great advice.
It's like, it's a sense of accomplishment. It's a good feeling. Everyone's probably nervous when they skydive, but when you're done skydiving, it feels good. And if you skydive again the next day, you're probably going to be a little bit nervous. But if you can remember the joy and the freedom and the appreciation you felt, the confidence you felt in yourself after, it helps a little to do it again. Actually, it doesn't help. It doesn't actually take any of that away.
Sure.
But it's a comforting thought briefly. But, what is life if we're not a little bit afraid of something or a little bit excited about something? And we're all human.
Yeah, that you pretty much did the thesis statement of the podcast, is to try to get people out of their comfort zones by seeing that other people have and, had positive effects from it. So thank you for sharing that. And I absolutely love that you said that. I'm curious, with going back a little bit to how we spoke about what you didn't put in the book that you're kind of talking about now. And I'm just curious, since you said that, like, you made it seem like you healed yourself and you're okay, but now you're kind of sharing that this is something that's still ongoing. Was there any sort of imposter syndrome going along with that, where you don't want to necessarily, try to get people to buy a book that you haven't completely mastered the skill around it? Or is it just like, no, I'm cool with being vulnerable, it's just scary to have people's reactions to the vulnerability?
It was a little of both. I think, oddly enough, it affected me more during the process of writing, when I was really, really afraid of food, and I didn't want to write about it, and I didn't want to look at it, and my health was kind of suffering. I spent 6 months just set the book aside, didn't even touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Was not excited about writing, didn't want to finish it. And I still walked around as if I was like, yeah, I'm writing a cookbook, I'm really excited about this. Like,
Yeah.
I still spoke to everyone about it as if it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the reactions I got from people that were like, oh my God, I can't wait to show my kids, I can't wait to cook for my husband, I really could use help with that, I'm trying to lose weight, or here's what's going on in my body. Everyone was really excited, and I just thought, like, maybe I should keep doing this. I don't know,
Sure.
because I don't know who I thought I was fooling. But then I started to tell people, I'm writing a book, I'm excited about it, but I've taken a break. Here's
Mm-hmm.
why. And everyone's response at that time was like, write about it. Put that in the book.
Sure.
Make yourself human. People are going to want to learn from somebody that's also been through something that they've been through, or struggled with something. And if you're this like young, blonde hair, blue eyed on the cover holding a kale salad, how much credibility do you have? Anyone can do that. But why don't you share with people why you didn't do that? So it's actually a story in the book called If I'm Being Honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I write about how I just felt like a failure. And you kind of expect your dentist to have nice teeth, and your trainer to be in shape, and your doctor to be fit and strong and healthy, your teacher to be smart. But they're also human too. Things
Right.
happen. And I would sooner trust somebody who had been through some sort of hardship and come out the other side to be able to relate to my experience. And I wanted to share that with people.
I can definitely identify with that. And even just, I know you because of the Primal community. That was how we were connected. And so, having spoken to a lot of people that follow the Primal lifestyle and the Primal nutrition, sometimes I just look at them and think, well, it's easy for you, obviously, or like the way that you're talking about it makes it easy for you. But, sometimes still, even though I eat clean most of the time, I think back to when I used to nut, and I sometimes still want it, even though I know it's disgusting. Like, occasionally I'll be like, McDonald's really sounds good. Haven't had it in years, I don't think. Like, I don't remember the last time I did, and it's gross when I think about 17 ingredients in a French fry, but I used to eat a lot of them. I know it should be like potatoes, oil, and salt, right? But
I'm going to go look that up after this. That's a lot of ingredients.
It's crazy. Michael Pollan did a thing about it and talks about there's 17 ingredients in McDonald's French fries. So, I know that's disgusting. And if you can sell a hamburger for 99 cents, like, how? Right. What can it be made of? Plus you have to pay someone to make it. That's terrifying. But sometimes I think that really sounds good. So being able to know that, like, yes, I, know that this is what I should be doing, but it's not always easy, is really reassuring to hear. Not that I want it to be hard for anyone else too, but it's nice to know that I'm not the only one, and it's not just easy for everyone except me or something like that. So I can feel a little bit reassured by that, and I can see why people would want to hear that vulnerability. So you're saying that at the beginning of writing the book, and that like the writing process was difficult for you and took a toll on you. How did you decide to do that if you felt like when you started you were at a hard point in your relationship with food? Because it seems like you decided to embark on something that was really difficult. Or did you think, oh, this would be cool, it'll be fun, and then once it started, getting deeper, it was harder?
Yeah, I think it was the latter. I think my intention in the beginning was just like, let's show people that healthy food is easy to make and it's delicious. Uh, and then I had a few dinner parties or just different experiences with my health or conversations with people, and that's when I really realized that this was so much more about my relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And that so many people started talking to me about why they don't cook and why they don't eat well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got really passionate about sharing with them ways to not spend a lot of money or clever ways to make things taste like they're expensive, spices to use to sort of complicate something just to make it interesting again. And that's when I started to write a little bit more about it, take note about my experiences, and that's when it got hard. I think initially it was easy. I kind of already had a bunch of recipes up my sleeve and
Sure.
then tweaked them here and there and put them in the book. Things that I just made because I was hungry or that's what was left in the fridge or things I wanted to try. But starting was the easy part. And oddly enough, finishing was kind of easy too. It was just everything in the middle that got a little messy and a little frustrating. And it took years. And my intention was for it to take, 9 months or something like that. Boy, was I wrong.
Well, I bet it's a lot more valuable the way it turned out than if it had just been a bunch of recipes. So
100%.
as it should be, I guess it worked out how it's supposed to be. So thank you for sharing that. One of my favorite questions to ask. So, well, actually, I want to go back a little bit more. So you obviously have finished the book. It's out now.
Yes.
Aside from promoting the book and going on podcasts and doing things like talking to me, what are you doing these days? Because I believe there's another food-related business that you can talk about a little bit.
Yeah. So aside from the book, my dad has this company, this following, and my brother graduated from business school recently. Mm-hmm. And he and I wanted to be a part of the family business without taking it over. And he and I, with a team of people, and my father obviously, decided to franchise a restaurant. So my brother and I will be our opening. Right now we're in the middle of construction, opening and running Primal Kitchen in Southern California in Culver City.
Okay.
And it's a healthy, fast, casual, it's a paleo restaurant. It's a primal restaurant. But when people say, are you paleo? I think like, well, yeah, I just don't eat crap. That what you mean? Because, the menu is extensive. The menu just got released today. Officially, people can go look at it. But he and I are partnering up. I'll be in the kitchen. I'll be behind the counter. I'll be talking to people. Right now, it's a lot of meetings and construction. But we are opening a restaurant. That is also a bold move.
That is a huge, bold move. And I can't believe it didn't come up until right now in conversation. So when do you expect to open?
We expect to open at the end of this summer.
Okay.
And oftentimes the question I get asked is like, why are you doing this? Whether it's about the book or the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm doing this for the same reason, because I love food and I love people, and I just want to share a fun, healthy space in your home or in the restaurant to eat food, to enjoy good food, and to be with people in a different way.
I love that. And I think food and being with people go together so perfectly. So that's fantastic. What are some items you expect to have on the menu?
Oh, we have like a sweet potato shepherd's pie. The breakfast menu was just released on Instagram this morning. Mm-hmm. So there's a short rib hash, there's a foraged omelet, there's coconut protein powder pancakes. Like the whole menu just looks insane. I'm going to be eating there for the rest of my life, and I can't wait.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to come down and
Please
check it out once it's open. Where can we find information about your book, your restaurant? If people want to learn more about you, where are you online?
So I'm mostly on Instagram. It's Kitchen Intuition.
Okay.
And My restaurant endeavors are also on Instagram. It's Primal Kitchen Culver City 1, the number 1. And my book can be found on Amazon right now. How cool is that? I have a book on Amazon.
That's exciting.
And also on the Primal Blueprint website. It is available. And hopefully soon to be in every boutique store in downtown LA and every Barnes and Noble that you walk in and out of. But we're getting there.
Awesome. And maybe if people are listening, they can go into their stores and request it to help get that ball rolling.
Great idea. I should be driving around to Barnes & Noble's right now.
Like, excuse me, do you have kitchen intuition? Wear a wig so they don't know
you
it's
don't have it? Like, yeah. Oh, I don't even care. They're not going to remember. Like, you don't have this book. I can't ever come here again.
But if they look it up in front of you, that might be
it's a little weird.
A little suspicious.
What if I need a copy of my own book?
That's true. You need to send them out with autographs or something. You have to get them.
There you go.
Speaking of books, aside from obviously Kitchen Intuition, do you have any other recommendations that you would like to give to any of our listeners or viewers?
So I like that you mentioned Michael Pollan, because since we talked a lot about food and that whole thing, Michael Pollan's the man. I would totally recommend all of his books.
Sure.
And I hate to be cliche, but like, your girl loves Dan Brown.
That's fair.
There's not a book that I can sit down and just read the entire thing on an airplane, on a couch, on a subway. I love Dan Brown. I'm a sucker for Dan Brown. And if he got me reading, and he helps me continue reading. So Dan Brown.
That works. And those books are hard to put down. So I don't hate the Dan Brown suggestion either.
Good.
Although I have to say, I haven't looked for it, so maybe it exists and I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen any books from him in a long time.
No, not that I'm aware of. But
okay.
I got started pretty late, so okay. I had a lot of them to read, and I got really excited about it. And they're still sitting on my bookshelf in case I need to read it again.
That's fair. It's nice to have a backup plan, an emergency reading stash.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. Those are great recommendations. And speaking of recommendations, aside from books, how about life? Do you have any just general life advice you'd like to dish out for us?
We teach that which we need to learn, right? So my advice is relax. Relax. Don't take life so seriously. I'm telling myself this right now. Take a deep breath, step back, just be. We're all going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. That's the best piece of advice that I need to give myself today and every single morning that I wake up.
That's great advice, and I think I needed it right now too, because I'm in the middle of planning a wedding.
That's right.
And every day there's some little thing, and I'm like, you know what? I still get to marry Tommy after all of this is over, and I will probably forget about whatever it is I'm worried about right now. So
leave it up to a higher power, like it'll happen.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. My final question is my favorite question to ask everyone. Even before I had the podcast, don't worry, it's not as hard hitting as the first couple I asked.
I don't know if the book was like the hardest one you asked.
That's why I like to give the heads up. But if little Devyn, 8 years old, had a crystal ball and could look at 26-year-old Devyn, how excited on a scale of 1 to 11 would you be to see where you are now and what you're doing?
Oh my God, you're going to make me cry. She would be stoked. She would be jumping up and down.
So at least an 11?
At least an 11.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, you're not kidding. You really?
No, like I can picture her now. She's so stoked. I feel very connected to 5-year-old Devyn.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, 8-year-old Devyn would be really, really excited.
Awesome. That's great news. Oh, now you're going to make me cry. Okay, well, I think we'll end on this happy, reminiscing type note. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you're doing in the world, for daring so greatly and being vulnerable and sharing so much of what I think a lot of people need to both hear and need to look inside themselves and kind of find their own version of it. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening and inquiring and helping me to spread this message to so many other people.
Absolutely. That is my pleasure. And I hope I didn't hit too hard with the tough questions.
No, you're good. I can handle it. I can handle it.
Awesome. Thank you. I was not expecting tears at the end of that one, but I'm so glad when I can touch even one person with my questions or the message of the podcast, so I think that was awesome. After I stopped the record button, Devyn shared with me about a story that's in her book where she was chatting with her mom the very first time her mom let her pick what she wanted to eat, and how it was Kraft macaroni and cheese and Lucky Charms, which were two of my mainstays in my diet up until I was probably close to 30, and just how having the power to make that choice is so amazing, but that, choosing macaroni and cheese and Lucky Charms isn't really great for anyone. And it was just really an interesting discussion, and I can't wait to read about it in her book. If you would like to win a copy of her book or maybe some other Primal Kitchen goodies, make sure you head to www.mandiem.com/episode67. That is where you will also find the links that Devyn was chatting about and other audiovisual additions to make the podcast a little bit more interesting. So make sure you go there and check it out and enter the giveaway. As always, of course, please subscribe to this. If you know of anyone who has a relationship with food that they're maybe exploring, or who would just find this interesting, please make sure you share it out, either to a specific friend or all of your friends. The more the merrier. I'd like to impact as many people as I possibly can with this. Also, you can buy the books that we talked about at the show notes, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get Devyn's challenge on Friday. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.